Chapter 2. Things that go bump in the night. The little cat, dignified as ever, was still with Mary when at length she came back to the house, bearing in one hand a single stem of the strange purple flower that she had found in the wood. She went through the back way. The wash-house door was shut, which meant presumably that Mrs. Banks and Nancy had gone back to their home in the village. But old Zebedee was in the scullery, sitting on a box, with an ancient, crusted-looking pail gripped between his knees. This was full of some thick steaming mess, at which he pounded fiercely with a stick. He still had on his awful old hat. He peered at her now from under the brim. Mary, remembering the broken chrysanthemum, approached him a little nervously, holding out the purple flower. "Do you know what this is, please?" she asked, hesitating. "I found it in the wood. I've never seen anything like it before." Zebedee's bright eyes regarded her. He did not seem to be bearing any malice about the broken plant. He chuckled. It do grow in the wood, surely, though I've not laid eye to it for many a year. Where did you get it?" "Not far from the path. Actually, the cat found it." "The cat?" repeated Zebedee. "Oh, aye." The little black cat looked at him, aloofly, and began to wash a whisker. "What's he called?" asked Mary. "The cat, or the flower?" "Well, both, actually." Old Zebedee began to stir the contents of the bucket again. "He don't come to the house much, the cat," he said. "He don't rightly belong here. He just came in one day, out of the wood. I calls him Tib." "Tib," said Mary, experimenting. The cat stopped washing for a moment, flicked her a glance, and then went on massaging his car. "Two on 'em, there was," said Zebedee. "Black and grey, but the same size, same eyes, and like as two peas. Tib and Gib, I called them. I haven't seen a grey one. Likely he's settled in the village." Zebedee nodded. "'Tis a way cats have, pick a good home and settle there, and nothing can shift 'em. I seen the pair of 'em last week, side by side on the vicarage wall in the dark, like a couple o' gilly howlets." "A couple of what?" "Church owls, you'd call 'em. Barn owls. I reckon they be twins. Tib and Gib, I calls 'em." Mary glanced at Tib. He had stopped washing and was sitting perfectly still, watching her. His eyes looked greener than ever. "I do hope he stays here," she said. "Tib, you will stay with me, won't you?" "They don't belong to the vicarage, do they, Zebedee?" "Perhaps if I went and asked Comma." "Cats doesn't belong," said Zebedee. "They goes where they wants to. Gib cat's keeping the vicar's kitchen warm, I reckon, but this little black un, been haunting the garden here regular now for days. Maybe he'll settle here now he's got company." "But what about Confucius? Miss Marshbanks says he doesn't like cats." Zebedee gave that wheezy laugh that seemed to whistle through his lungs like wind through far-away trees. "Never a dog yet that could so much as stare out a cat," he said. "And that Tib cat could stare out a king, I reckon." "Well, if he'll stay, he and I can go and look for Gib tomorrow," said Mary. "It'll be something I'll enjoy doing that. And he seems pretty good at finding things." "Did you say you knew the name of the flower?" Zebedee dug in the bucket with his stick. He chuckled again. "First time as he goes into the wood," he said, "and he finds it. I mind my dad telling me how folks used to come far and wide to gather it in Redmanor woods, years back. That'd be, when chemists and doctors and such wasn't to be found on every bush, and country folks made their own simples." He peered, nodding at the stem of blossom. "Aye, that's her, a rare one, surely, and sought for high and low. 'Tis the only place she grows, they say, and she only flowers once in 7 years." Mary stared at him. "Only once in 7 years? Aye. A rare one, surely. What did the folk use it for?" asked Mary. Old Zebedee shook his head and stirred the pail again. "Potions and powders, that I couldn't say. But the word went that there was magic in her." "Magic? It be but a tale, a country tale," said Zebedee. "The flower she be in the books, likely enough, with a grand name as long as your arm, and foreign at that, but with her flowering at the 7th year, and at the time, when the other flowers is dying. Well, superstitious folks called her magic. And 'tis said that in the olden days the witches sought her from the corners of the Black Mountains, and from the place where the old city was, and there's now naught but a pool o' water." The words fell queerly in the clean, everyday scullery, with bright packets of soap powder on a shelf, and a rack of aluminum pans above them, and with the late pale shaft of the sun falling across the scrubbed floor. Mary stared down at the flowers clustered on the slender stem, and in the small draught from the door the purple heads stirred, and the golden tongues moved in the silver throats. A magic flower. She touched a pistil gently with a forefinger. Look, Zebedee, the gold comes off. What's the flower's name? I told you, said the old man. I don't know the name in the books, and folks don't hunt her now the way they used to, but when I was a lad she had names a plenty. Dragon tongue, witch's bells, Tib's root. Tib's root, cried Mary. That's the cat. Tib. He found it for me. Zebedee chuckled again. Likely he's a witch's cat, he said indulgently. He do look like one, surely. That be why I called him Tib. Likely his name's only Blackie or Smuts or Sooty, after all. He looks like a Tib, said Mary stoutly, and I'm sure he's a magic cat. Look how he found the magic flower for me, the Tib's root. That's one name for it, said Zebedee. I calls his fly by night. Why? But he would not answer, and when she questioned him, he only stirred his bucket so violently that at last she said, What's in the bucket, Zebedee? Pollard for the hens, he said shortly. Nasty critters. Nasty mean pecking critters, hens. I hates hens. And picking up his bucket, he stumped out of the scullery. Mary watched him go, then turned to look for Tib. But the scullery was empty, and when she ran to the back door to peer out into the yard, that was empty too. The little black cat had vanished. It was late that night, when Mary had been in bed for some time, and when she should certainly have been asleep, that the queer thing happened. She had woken, drowsy and warm from her first sleep, and was just turning over towards the window, when she heard it, distant, over the trees, a swish like the swoop of wind. That's funny, thought Mary, there isn't any wind. There must be a storm coming. What a pity, when I was going with Tib tomorrow. The noise came again, louder, nearer, a long shrill rush of wind, with a whistle in it, and all along the wall of the house the Virginia creeper swished as if giant fingers had swept along it, and the windows rattled. Mary stiffened, her skin tingling. Then suddenly, the scream, a thud, and the scream checked as if the screamer had bitten through his tongue. Silence. And as Mary, with every inch of her flesh crawling with goose pimples, sat slowly up in bed, staring at the window, there came a faint scrabbling noise on the sill. Rigid with fright, she sat motionless, then slowly reached out a hand to the switch of the bedside light. She found it, took a deep breath, and pressed it. The room sprang into light, and the black sky outside the window drew back. But something, black as the night sky, moved upon the windowsill. Something tapped and scrabbled at the window. Two eyes glared. Mary's breath went out in a great sigh of relief as she flung herself out of bed and towards the window. Tib. Tib. Oh, Tib, what a fright you gave me. She threw open the bottom of the window, and the little black cat leaped into the room. Ignoring Mary, he stalked into the middle of the carpet and stood there, his tail lashing, his fur stiff with fury, his eyes as bright as traffic lights. Mary bent over him. Tib, what's the matter? What's happened? Tib took no notice of her. His fur still bristled like a half brush. The green eyes still glared at the window. Mary switched off the light, then went back to the window and stared out into the dark garden. The trees were a dim-shadowed huddle beyond the lawn. The hanging clouds above them had withdrawn a little, to show, beyond, a faint inlay of silver stardust. The air was motionless. 2 stories below, on the darkness of the lawn, nothing stirred. It had only been a gust of wind, after all, and the thud, the scream. Mary closed the window and, picking up Tib, began to smooth his angry fur. A cat fight, probably. They did scream, terribly, when they fought. Perhaps Gib had come back, and they had had a quarrel. Even twins quarreled sometimes. Jenny and Jeremy certainly did. We'll find him tomorrow, and then you'll have to make it up, she told Tib. She climbed into bed then, and Tib, purring suddenly, curled warm and soft against her. Just as the two of them were settling down to sleep together, Mary thought of something. Tib, she said, whispering in the dark against the velvet fur. Tib, how did you get up there on my windowsill? Tib, settling a purring nose among his curled black paws, did not reply.